I honestly don't know if I've even mentioned this story. Perhaps I covered it like in a cursory manner. It deserved far more attention. Lawyer Stephen Donziger, I think I have covered it at least once, who sued Chevron over Amazon Chernobyl, ordered to prison after house arrest. He is currently sitting in a prison right now. On behalf of Chevron. Let's hear from him.
Democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report.
On with Amy Goodman.
The environmental human rights lawyer, Stephen Donziger, is reporting to jail today after a federal appellate court rejected his request for bail pending his appeal. Earlier this month, Steve Donziger was sentenced to 6 months in prison for contempt of court, a misdemeanor. Donziger has already spent over 2 years under house arrest after being targeted by the oil giant Chevron. The case stems from Steve's role in suing Chevron on behalf of 30,000 Amazonian indigenous people for dumping 16 billion gallons of oil into their ancestral land in the Ecuadorian Amazon. 10 years ago, Ecuador's Supreme Court ordered Chevron to pay $18 billion. The landmark ruling was seen as a major victory for the environment and corporate accountability. But Chevron refused to pay or clean up the land. Instead, it launched a legal attack targeting Donziger. In July, a federal judge found him guilty of 6 counts of criminal contempt of court after he refused to turn over his computer and cell phone. In an unusual legal twist, the judge appointed a private law firm with ties to Chevron to prosecute Donziger after federal prosecutors declined to bring charges. Amnesty International recently called for his immediate release, saying he was being arbitrarily detained. The UN's Working Group on Arbitrary Detention has also called for his release. Well, as he prepares to report to prison later today, Steve Donziger is joining us from his home in New York, where he's been under house arrest for 813 days. Meanwhile, in Washington...
Just to summarize, this man is a lawyer. A civil rights attorney.
D.C. There'll be a major news conference held today outside the Capitol. Steve Donziger, welcome back to Democracy Now! Where are you heading to prison today? We're talking about a misdemeanor. You've already been under house arrest for nearly 1,000 days.
A bunch of fucking bullshit.
It's just extraordinary, Amy. Thank you for the introduction. I mean, it pretty much captured it. What I'll say is I have to...
And hey, all the right-wingers talking about tyranny, talking about cancel culture, free speech being under attack. Here you go, right-wingers. Here's a perfect goddamn story to illustrate it. But they don't care. They don't give a shit because they don't actually stand for those things.
Report to prison by 4:48 p.m. today. Which is in itself highly unusual. I don't believe I'm guilty. No lawyer has ever spent more than 90 days in home confinement, maximum sentence ever given to a lawyer, convicted of my charge, which is misdemeanor contempt. I've already spent over 8 times that at home, and now on top of that, Judge Preska's trying to put me in prison for 6 months. And, another unusual feature is she's making me report within 24 hours after this latest court ruling that came down yesterday, rather than allowing me time to report, in a normal course to...
Yeah, because his appeals are like through November.
Which prison are you going to be held at?
I don't know yet. By forcing me in so quickly, Judge Preska, I believe, is trying to force me into a local federal jail that I think is very unsafe. I mean, I have no security risk at all. I've never been convicted. It's the lowest level offense. So normally I would go to a federal prison camp. And, we need time for the Bureau of Prisons to designate me to an appropriate facility. Instead, she's trying to force me very quickly, I think, into a local jail, which concerns me greatly, frankly. And I think that's one reason why Amnesty International put out an urgent action bulletin 2 days ago for people to write to the Attorney General Garland to just stop this case. I mean,
yes,
crazy thing about this that is so disturbing, Amy, is that I was
Fuck, I'm gonna get on this. I'm writing to the DOJ after the show.
Private law firm, Seward and Kissel, appointed by a federal judge after the U.S. government declined to prosecute me. And the judge never disclosed that the law firm had Chevron as a client. So essentially, I'm being prosecuted by a Chevron law firm, a partner in a Chevron law firm, a private law firm, who deprived me of my liberty. I'm the only person ever charged with this offense held pre-trial at home or in prison. Never happened before for even a day. It's over 800 days. So, this is the first corporate prosecution in U.S. history. I have never seen a case like this, nor have other legal experts that work with me. And, we just think, to restore the rule of law as regards Steve Donziger and the people of Ecuador, this case has to be stopped and taken over by the Department of Justice. I mean, they could
please
with it. I mean, if they want to prosecute me, but I need to be prosecuted by a neutral prosecutor, not by Chevron.
So I want to just talk about some of the people who are supposed
Well, and that's another, they said specifically the federal prosecutors declined the case. He knows he would win. It would get thrown out immediately. This is absolute bullshit.
Washington. We just interviewed a climate striker on a hunger strike in Washington, D.C., and we heard from Congressmember Rashida Tlaib. She'll be there at your news conference. Also, you have...
There's my wafu. Fuck yeah.
Garcia,
Representative Tlaib.
Jesus Chuy Garcia from Chicago. Congressmember Jim McGovern of Massachusetts, as well as a number of people from Amnesty International, Law Students for Climate Accountability. Talk about the significance. I mean, you have so many supporters at this point at high levels.
Yeah, how?
Talk about what's at stake, what it is you expect.
But hey, maybe Josh Hawley was fucking right, and Merrick Garland doesn't know what's going on in his own Justice Department, and he isn't aware of this case. What the fuck? I wanted Doug Jones as the Attorney General. I understood why they picked Garland, but I wanted Doug Jones.
Well, I think the stakes are high, and it goes way beyond me personally. I mean, on a personal level, it hurts. I have a wife and a 15-year-old son, and we're hurting. Okay, but let's just get real here. What's really happening here is Chevron and it's these two judges and really allies of the fossil fuel industry are trying to use me as a weapon to intimidate activists and lawyers who do this work, who do the frontline work of defending the planet. What's at stake really, I mean, not only my freedom, what's at stake is the ability to advocate for human rights in our society. I mean, the things I was charged with were, I was a lawyer litigating various court orders, for years, ethically. I'm proud of my work. And this judge just went after me. I'm the only lawyer ever in U.S. history to be charged with criminal contempt of court for challenging a civil discovery order on appeal. That's essentially what happened. So, I'm calling on judges and people in Congress like, Representative Tlaib and Jim McGovern and, Cori Bush and others who stepped up for me to continue speaking out, to enlist more people. We need people in the Senate, and ultimately we need the Biden administration. I mean, I heard your previous guest. I mean, the Biden administration is essentially letting a climate change lawyer, me, an environmental justice lawyer, an indigenous rights lawyer, an earth defender, a water protector, be locked up on American soil. And it's getting really embarrassing for our country.
Yes.
Every day that Amnesty International issues an urgent action for an American citizen. It's probably the second time in 20 years that this has happened, okay? It's not every day that the United Nations Working Group on Arbitrary Detention issues an order that someone in the United States, his case is a violation of multiple provisions of international law and shows an appalling degree of a lack of impartiality by judges, So our country needs to deal with this. It really goes to what kind of society we want to live in. And it really relates to the climate issue because, again, I believe this whole thing is being orchestrated by Chevron, not just for Chevron, but for the entire fossil fuel industry. They don't want people speaking out. They don't want successful litigation to hold them to account for their pollution in ways that will help save the planet. And I think ultimately that's what this is about, and people need to pay serious attention to what's
Stephen
happening to me.
Donziger, you have called the devastation in Ecuador the Amazon Chernobyl. Explain why. Explain the original lawsuit that resulted in an $18 billion judgment against Chevron.
Basically, Chevron, in the form of Texaco, its predecessor company, went into the Amazon of Ecuador and decided to create an operational system of literally hundreds of wells where they deliberately dumped toxic waste into waters, into rivers and streams that indigenous groups relied on for their drinking water, bathing, and fishing, creating a mass industrial poisoning of a 1,500 square mile area. And literally hundreds, if not thousands of people have died. I've been there over 250 times. The affected communities went to court. In the court, Chevron wanted the trial to happen in Ecuador. They won the case. Chevron has attacked me, attacked them for 10 years with the help of these federal judges. In the meantime, people are suffering. And, you know, the degree of contamination is appalling. I mean, it is the Amazon Chernobyl. It's the very definition of ecocide, in my opinion. I mean, that's just a deliberate decision in order to save money to dump 16 billion gallons of cancer-causing waste onto indigenous ancestral lands. And the problem is still there. The case has been going on 28 years. And no matter what happens to me, and I hope I'll be okay, I hope I'll get through this, I expect to get through this, the communities in Ecuador suffering tremendously, and they need help. And Chevron needs to step up and comply with the rule of law and pay the judgment that it owes to the people of Ecuador.
Chevron shouldn't exist.
Being with us, clearly the fight against oil extraction in the Amazon continues. A lawsuit was...
This is the reason why the number, like, I'm up for a debate on nationalizing different industries, but the very first one is the energy industry. It needs to be nationalized, and it should have always been nationalized. Donziger is a hero. Unfortunately, the bid to avert going to prison failed. He was incarcerated about 4 hours ago in Danbury, Connecticut. Fuck all the way off. And once again, I ask you, right-wingers, where are you? This is a constitutional violation. This is the tyranny of big business. This is government overreach. And this is silencing of speech. This is everything you motherfuckers claim to be against. Where are you? What's Ben Shapiro talking about tonight? What's goddamn fucking Charlie Kirk talking about tonight? It's not just Trump. As we see with the fucking Biden administration could have stepped in today and prevented this. They are also bought and paid for. Our government has been taken over by corporate interest, and I don't understand how these fucking idiots on the right will tell me that the free market would fix this. No, they keep telling you that so that you keep privatizing every goddamn bit of this country. And things keep getting worse and worse. And that is what is more outrageous to me. Where's Joe Rogan? You fucking free speech warriors. Where's goddamn Dave Chappelle? You want to talk about being canceled, Dave Chappelle? Stand up for this motherfucker.